You're watching the Tesla Live with your host, Mark Coughlin.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tesla Live number 359. As we sit here, what is it, the 15th of May, 2024? Welcome, everybody, to the show. With me, as normal, we have Mr. Casey Green joining us from the Mid-Atlantic. How are you today, sir?
Doing all right.
Excellent, excellent. Also joining us, Mr. Patrick Connor, capped and ready to go in the Northwest. How are you, sir?
That's right. I'm good. Hello, Tesla Nation. And I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to wear this cap. It's starting to get warm here. So, yeah, I might have to actually find a different hat for the summer months. Because, yep, the AC is kicking on now and then nowadays. So
Exactly.
the last couple of weeks, I've been talking about how I love it this time of year when it's sunny, and yet the AC hasn't kicked on, so we're generating lots of extra kilowatt hours and sending them to the grid. Well, now we're using a few of those solar kilowatt hours to run the air conditioner. So,
So you've got the AC going. That's a little bit early for you, is it not?
It is a little early, yeah. And the funny thing is, like last week on Tuesday, we had a frost warning overnight, and now this week it's 27°C. So there you go.
Yeah, that's getting toasty for sure. So AC is going to be using for sure. Oh, we got Lee Moon in the crowd. How you doing, Lee?
Thank you, Lee Moon.
Thanks for showing up.
He's got
of course,
good news.
is the composer of the intro that we use and outro. So we always try to remember to thank Lee Moon for the music, and glad to see him back in the chat area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, let's get rolling. We've got a bunch of news. Casey, can you take this first one about FSD and what might be subtracted from the package shortly?
So the master of saying things at Tesla just says he claims that with the next major update to FSD Beta 12.3.4, the steering wheel nag will be gone. Let's see if that actually happens, because like I said, he said stuff. It doesn't look like there's anything really stopping it, but that doesn't mean that that we won't get an NHTSA complaint or an FCC complaint, or it just not to happen internally, and so on and so forth. But that's something to look forward to, as long as you're not holding your breath.
What do you guys find, the two of you that have FSD, what do you guys find in the nag? How annoying is it with the new version 12? Has there been any change? Is it the same? Is there a difference?
On my legacy car, it's ramped way up.
Oh, wow.
Even
So
if
you
I'm
don't
actually
have
holding the wheel, like in the canceling mode, it'll still ask me to make sure that I jiggle it. I'm like, any more jiggling and you can turn off.
Yeah, so I don't find it all that different. I think it does a good job using the cabin camera also. So I notice that I get more of them if it thinks I'm not paying attention. And it might be just because I'm looking at other things instead of straightforward. So it's not that I'm not paying attention, but it does a good job with that. So if they can improve the camera capability, because like you said, that NTSA or somebody's going to have issues with them if they just remove it completely. They have to have some driver monitoring, and there are plenty of other systems out there that do not use the steering wheel torque sensor. I really don't like that as a method for them to determine that you're paying attention, because like Casey, you just said, if you jiggle it too much, you turn it off. And sometimes a slight touch and it still says you haven't done it. And then if like on the third warning of it flashing blue, you end up turning it too hard and then you've turned it off.
What about the scroll wheels? Do those work in your situation?
They do most of the time.
Yeah.
And the problem is the few times when they don't, and you think that, you flick it and then you end up getting the red flashing instead of the blue flashing because it didn't register that because it was in some whatever state. And also if you're turning at the time, they're not easy to reach. So they're not perfect. But yeah, I certainly do use that most of the time. Is how I let it know that I have my hand on there, and it just becomes a habit of flicking the volume up and down a little bit as you're driving.
Yeah.
Yeah, there have been a couple of versions of V12 on certain cars where it doesn't actually count on scrolling the wheels, and then after that they count again. So, and it's not like it was like at this one they stopped doing it, and then going forward, no, it's even on my legacy car, it's like, we don't care about scroll wheels anymore. And then, hey, look, I canceled the flashy flash.
Yeah, yeah. So it's something that, and I realize that Elon says a lot of stuff on Twitter with no real time frame, or he says a time frame like 2 weeks, and it isn't 2 weeks. So yeah, there's going to be some real variance and as to what actually happens. But I think that if the camera could, track your alertness better than the torque on the wheel, that's a big plus because it seems that a number of people can't get into the habit of loosely hanging their hand on the wheel to provide enough torque, or as mentioned, flip the scroll wheels up and down to keep it engaged. But if the system could watch your eyes through the camera and look at your head position, looking out the front windscreen, then that sounds like that may be something that will be ultimately the end goal. But you're right, there may be a number of bumps along the way, or half step backs to get NHTSA to agree that those type of viewing the driver is just as good as the torque steer.
Yeah, I suspect that if they're going to be satisfied with anything, it'll be that the driver monitoring on the mid-legacy and the new cars is sufficient. Those of us without legacy, maybe they can give us capacitive touch or a retrofit to the camera. I don't know.
Or you're just going to be stuck with torque sensor. It'll only be the newer cars. They're not going
to that, but like also in addition, got a new car, so it'd take care of that. These little tweaks they do to try and pressure us to get new cars, not going to work.
They're going to have to do a lot better to get Casey to give up free supercharging for life. Exactly. And some of those deals may be coming because it's looking like this year is going to be tough on the financials. We see a number of levers being pulled. And of course, the year is not even half over yet. So there could be some of those deals coming up soon. So keep your eyes peeled. One of the other things I wanted to talk about was left over from last week when we talked about Revel wanting to take over some superchargers in New York City for their fleet. This week, with, of course, the supercharger story continuing, their BP, which is, of course, has signed a deal with Tesla to purchase Tesla V4 equipment for install at a number of BP locations. They're saying that they would like the opportunity, if it exists, to take over some Tesla builds that are partially built, or that Tesla is looking to maybe offload. And this story, of course, is all over the board when it comes to what's being done and what's not being done. There are a lot of balls in the air at this point, and Tesla is telling us very little, which is not surprising, as to what is going on with the partially built stations. Elon has said everything that's under construction will be completed. They've indicated that the number of superchargers will slow down, but they're not stopping. And excuse me, choking. And what the other thing was that a number of different suppliers got a letter recently outlining, asking them to be patient, that people are being filled into the roles, and that they're going to be starting to get some communication shortly, just to be patient with us as we go through this bit of transition. So there's a number of things, as mentioned, that are in flux, and it's interesting to see how it's going to be handled. But of course, these people on the outside, third-party chargers, for example, BP and others, they're looking at it going, this could be an opportunity for us. Look at what Revell did. They have interest in taking over some sites. So I could definitely see some of the third-party groups not only interested in the actual locations that may be in flux, but even some of the personnel that was let go at Tesla. How better to supercharge your team to bring in a number of people that were already familiar with the permit process, with the voltages and how the utilities work in different areas of the country. With that many people let go, there's a lot of good talent out there that's available, up for grabs.
Breaking news! Some of them got hired back.
Oh yeah, we have that story coming up. Yes,
that's coming up, but okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I think this was a really smart move by BP. You guys all know I want to move beyond petroleum. That's not who they are.
That's a different company. Yeah.
BP. And
well, they claim to be sometimes.
Yeah, that is one of the ways they marketed themselves in the past when they were going into some renewable businesses, and which then all they did was end up filing some patents and shutting those businesses down, and now they can use those as roadblocks for other legitimate companies that were trying to get into that space. But whatever, I think this is a really smart move by them, because if we look at the 50s Rockin' Diner that Tesla's building, it's going to become a destination spot. And as we've talked about, for gas stations today, they make most of their profit off of the amenities in the store and the convenience store and the drinks and coffee and jerky and chips and all the other stuff that they sell there at a high margin. And the gas itself is sold at low margin. So if they can... They were smart first to just partner with Tesla and buy superchargers, because they don't have the expertise to design. And even if they did, why spend the time, effort, dollars when someone else has already figured it out? So just buy Tesla superchargers. And now when it looked like Tesla was backing away from the supercharger game in general, which, as Casey just said, that they're not. But when it looked like that's what was happening, for them to try to step in and pick up the talent, pick up the locations, that's good business, and it's good for all of us, because the more places you have to charge, the easier it is to be an EV owner. And I'm still not going to go to a BP station if I can avoid it, but still.
I'm not, because it's not free.
Right, exactly. They're not going to give you supercharging.
But you can definitely see, as Patrick has mentioned, the more the better, right? Like it just gives more people more options. We've got more and more vehicles that are being added every day to the EV nation, and being able to have a few different extra choices in a city or a location that you're in. There's nothing wrong with that. And I could even see, if the price was about the same, I would have no problem stopping at a BP to fill up my Tesla if there was, if it was convenient. If it's not convenient, then of course you've got that going against you. But certainly it's going to be convenient for some. And as Patrick has mentioned, that's going to help BP retain those properties, retain the profitability of those properties as gasoline sales start to go down. First top out and then start to go down, because you want to still have those customers coming in and buying that coffee and buying those lotto tickets and buying that beef jerky. You want those things to still happen, because that's your profit center. You don't want your customers to migrate away from you.
Right.
And then as those pumps get taken out, you can put in some more superchargers, and then guess what? We've got towing friendly spots, because they were already built for that. And then the newest member of the NACS crew, Lightship, you can plug in your RV right there.
Yeah, NACS is another way that this really ties in, because as we know, but in 2025, all the EVs in North America are going to be switching over to NACS. So buying Tesla stations is just the easiest way to do it, especially if you're buying the V4 that have the Magic Dock, even better.
Yep, gives you
Sorry,
the flexibility.
You're left out in the cold, Chatamo. Leaf drivers,
well, not
I'm
entirely
sorry.
now, because there's a Chatamo to CCS 1 and 2 adapter. Then you take the CCS 1 adapter and you put it into a NACS adapter. Now your Nissan Leaf is charging on Supercharger.
So let me get this right. You got a NACS plug. You plug it into the super or the Magic Dock, which makes it a CCS. Then you take another adapter, plug it into the CCS, so you've got Chatamo. That's going to add the extra 1.5 feet to get it to your car in a convenient spot. Adapters upon adapters.
But as we were talking about on Sunday, Nissan still has one of the best charging locations as far as universality.
That's true. Right at the front center.
At least on the Leaf, right in the front center. They did change it to the driver's side fender on the Aria, as well as finally adopt liquid cooling.
What a novel approach. They actually added liquid cooling. Way to go, Nissan.
20 years late.
Finally.
Oh, those people in Phoenix can now rejoice. Once they buy it, of course.
Texas.
Next, we're going to have a little story. And what a coincidence. We log on today. We've got this story in our midst. And who was it in the chat room? Derek actually breaks the story in his chat to us. Tesla has opened up their financing wing to allow people to buy the Model Y at a just below 1% interest rate. And Derek had commented that he just convinced his daughter to use the 0.99% interest rate to get a Model Y. And then she yelled at him on the phone yesterday. So I don't know why she yelled at him, but maybe Derek can let us know. Was it a happy yell, or was she upset about something different?
Yeah, I hope it was a giddy, joyous. Oh my God, that's so awesome! Yelling. So this is awesome. We know that one of the things that holds a lot of people back from buying a new car, especially EVs right now, are not cheap. There isn't a $25,000 vehicle available for most of the markets, and so it comes down to monthly payment. And most of the time, I would say try to buy a vehicle outright. Why give a bank $4,000 or $5,000 or $6,000 of your hard-earned money? But if a payment is what you need to do, so I plugged in a couple numbers to some loan calculators here, and a $50,000 car, 60-month term, 5% interest with $10,000 down, you're paying at the end of it all $755 per month. Well, if you instead are getting 0.99, you can stretch that loan out another year, still pay less per month, still pay less overall, and you can get the payment down to 570. So from 750 to 570. So that's quite the monthly savings, and you still. So the total for that second case where you have 0.99 is 53,600, compared to the other one where you're paying 57,700. So normally with a loan term, if you stretch it out, you're going to be paying more. But with 0.99, you're getting less than inflation. So that's a loan you should be in no hurry to pay off, because you have better than arbitrage.
Now, isn't this exactly what Elon told us on the previous call or two calls before that? Is that the whole problem is that the money is expensive, and that's why people aren't buying the car? And now money's not so expensive anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're doing this. I don't know if they
Probably.
what bank they're working with, or if they're doing some of their own internal funding. I don't know how they're doing it. It would be nice to know some of the details behind this.
Don't look a gift horse in the mouth.
And yeah, I'm sure we're not going to hear anytime soon about that. And it'll be interesting. How long does this go on? This is something that, of course, we always say on this show. If the price makes sense, if the vehicle makes sense at this time for you, act now, because you never know how long things will last. It may disappear in just a week. It may disappear in 2 weeks, and you would hate to have missed the boat if this was your dream deal. So don't wait for something better. If this makes sense to you, act.
Yes. I'm sure it won't go past the end of the quarter, just because everything seems to be end of quarter driven, even if they bring it back at some other time. So yeah, if this is what like Lee Moon's daughter, if this is the right thing for them right now,
it was Derek's daughter.
Oh, sorry, Derek. Yes.
Yeah, Lee Moon also got one, but it was Derek's daughter who. Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, that's great news. Great news for many that have been looking at the high interest rates lately and just saying that prices them out. As Patrick mentioned in the math, there's a huge difference. So getting a sub 1% is makes a lot of sense to many people that are waiting. So get out there and act if it makes sense to you today.
We would do this probably about once a year in the franchise dealership world, at Honda and at Chevrolet, at Acura, at Toyota. And it wasn't always very long. Sometimes it was like 2 weeks. Sometimes it was a month. Sometimes it was a whole quarter. We run the 0.99% interest, 0% interest, whatever the special was at the time, and you move a lot of metal.
Yeah.
And then it's gone. People still come in the door looking for it, but too late, and they need a car.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So don't miss out if that's you today. Next, this is kind of interesting, as Casey had alluded to. So there was a meeting held at Tesla headquarters with Elon from the Supercharger Department. The head of Supercharger Department went in. They were discussing future plans. They had apparently identified somewhere in the area of 15% of employees to be laid off, which Elon had asked every department to look through their staff and reduce the headcount. We don't know by how much he asked them to reduce it, but the Supercharger Department apparently went in with about 15% people. And then they presented their plans to Elon as to expansion, where they were heading, what was being built, what was going on in the department at that time. And of course, this department previously was controlled by Drew, the executive that just recently left. Baglino, was it?
Baglino, yeah.
He had left just a quarter before. So up until that point, Drew was the exec in charge of supercharging rollout, and he was, of course, left. And the new woman who was in charge now,
Rebecca
Tanichi, that's correct. She had gone into the meeting, and and again, this is not, we don't have actual information from it. We're getting second or third hand information about other people in the management chain that describe what happened in this meeting. And basically they said the meeting went off the rails early, and it got into a difference of minds as to what should be happening. And Elon eventually, as we saw from the releases of people, basically got rid of the whole department, managers and all.
And he didn't get any training in how to speak with Elon.
Right? Yeah, it's like, are you not subscribing to your boss's Twitter? Because that should be rule number one for any employee that talks with Elon, is they should know what has happened in the past with him.
Well, I mean, it's got to be a little bit of a shock, though. You go from having, somebody reasonable you can talk with, not that he's saying he's not reasonable, but somebody who's got a reasonable communication style, to him. It's like, whoa.
Well, this woman was actually reporting to Drew previously, right? So it would have been a completely different style. Maybe Drew was easygoing. Maybe Drew was calm and even keeled. But with Elon,
he had the patience to step it through. Elon does not have the patience to step through.
Exactly. So there could have been that particular problem with the communication, that now she is talking to Elon, not realizing that Elon reacts in a completely different way than what Drew does. And basically it cost her job and the entire department. They were ousted.
Talking to her thinking, man, what an idiot. Like she obviously is not able to do the job. Anybody who I'm talking to knows how to talk to me, rather than thinking, oh, maybe because the guy who used to do this last week isn't here anymore. She hasn't yet the training on how to talk to me.
Exactly. She could have had zero interaction with Elon to that point. Who knows? But really, what happened at that point was that the whole department was let go. We got a bunch of suppliers that were freaked out because all their contacts for email addresses for Tesla employees started to bounce back. Nobody was there anymore. They got an email put out saying, "Hey, just put everything on hold at this point." And then we heard this week that there's been a bit of a reversal, and some employees are being hired back. And it's like, okay, what's going on here? Like, what is actually happening? This is not typically how departments are run. It must be extremely difficult for employees that are involved in a situation like this, where they don't know if they're employed or not, or expected back, or there's got to be a whole bunch of questions currently that are floating around Tesla as a whole, not just the Supercharger department, but everybody. It's got to be wearing on people's mental wellness when this type of thing happens. And we're still not really sure how many people have been hired back. If the Supercharger departments, all their responsibilities have been sent to others. We've heard something about Tesla Energy receiving maintenance of Superchargers. And of course, they're a bit overwhelmed too. They had 20% of their employees walk out the door, or they showed them to the door, and now they're being told that they're going to be responsible for maintenance of the existing Supercharger network. So,
and the people that we heard the news from, they said that the team that was let go was already working pretty darn hard, and so if they were already working at their full capacity, and then you got to move that to somebody else who already has a job, something's going to fall by the wayside.
Yeah, absolutely. It can't be just all gathered up and run with immediately. There's going to be some drop balls along the way. So this is kind of it's concerning. It's concerning as to how this was handled. I'm not sure why it was so sudden. There was such a cut in, just a slam. That's it. Everybody's out, and now we're telling suppliers to just be patient with us. Now we're hiring back a few people here and there. Even managers are being hired back. Some are. It's really perplexing.
Yeah. So according to the stories on Elon, if you delete a part and you don't have to put some of it back, then you didn't take away enough parts. And apparently he sees HR as a part in his rocket.
Yeah, and that is exactly what we said last week on this show. Is that this was a drastic cut. I think they're going to realize it was too big of a cut, and they're going to reverse a significant chunk of it. And here we are a week later, and that's exactly what happened. And it's really too bad. I don't want anyone coming away thinking that Rebecca Tinichi was the problem and that she didn't know how to talk to Musk. It's that Musk has this volatile personality, runs on lack of sleep most of the time, and has human relation difficulties due to neurocognitive differences. So you put all that together and you have a recipe for these shot from the hip crazy decisions that are going to have to be reversed. And that's what happened.
Yep. So I was at a Supercharger on Saturday. It was one of the original V1 Superchargers that got upgraded to V2 and then got its upgrade to 150 kilowatts. It's an 8-stall station, and only 2 stalls were working. They were on the same cabinet. Stall 1 was physically busted. Like on stall 1B, the pins were like physically bent inside the NACS connector, and on stall 1A, the plastic housing around all that was broken back until the metal. I don't know what was wrong with stall 4A and 4B. Somebody else tested that. And then stall 2A and 2B. The lady who was in line in front of me, she tested that. And then she let us go in front of her. And then, so we did. And before we got out to go to the restroom, she parked. And by the time we were done with the restroom, she was gone. And it wasn't like we had a long stop in the restroom. It was just a quick number one. And she was gone. So I don't know if she didn't want to wait for the slowness or if her car was just being super. And then you can go on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I don't know. Like as Patrick mentioned, they cut too far. And now they're scrambling a little bit to say, okay, we really can't just offload the entire department and do nothing with it. We need more bodies to be able to answer telephone calls. We need more people to respond to emails. We need more people to contact permit holders. All that stuff is something that is intensive, and it needs to be followed up by someone competent to be able to do the steps properly. So it's something that I just hope we don't see this again. I don't necessarily like the idea of cutting so much that you have to go back. I think you'd be much better in cutting a smaller amount of people, getting the ship stable after the cut, and then if you need to, cut a little bit more later. This whole thing of getting rid of a whole department was probably short-sighted.
Yeah. So one of Tesla's.
Go ahead, Patrick.
Okay, go ahead, Patrick.
Okay, yeah. So one of Tesla's biggest strengths as a company is that they can attract and retain really good talent. I mean, if you look at the survey results of where college graduates want to work, consistently Tesla and SpaceX are near or at the top of the list. And if they do things like this, people are not going to want to go work there if they think, oh, on the day that Musk has a bad day, I and everybody in my department could cut regardless of our performance. That's going to lower them in their ability to attract top talent. So for that reason, long term, this is just a bad move.
Yeah, they could definitely use themselves a wind shot wheel over at Tesla.
Exactly.
And my experience was, I'm not suggesting that there are a few employees who suggest that it will become typical, but I'm not suggesting it's typical because just 15 minutes down the road is a new V4 station. It's got the V4 dispensers and the V3 cabinets. But missing a station will have the risk of all of a sudden having lines at the new station because it's not one of the 100 stall stations. It was just appropriate for the hole in the network and the amount of traffic they were dealing with.
Right.
Yeah. So we'll see this. I'm sure this story isn't completely over. I'm sure there'll be ripples continuing, and we will continue to cover it. And of course, if you want to follow what's happening throughout the weeks in between shows, please follow us on our Twitter feed at The Tesla Life or on our Facebook feed, The Tesla Life #1. And you can get updates throughout the week as we come across them. Another story of interest, and again, this is wacky. This is real wacky. Over the past weekend, we had a protest at Giga Berlin. A couple of them, where we had a bunch of I would call them anarchists.
Yes.
That were looking to breach the security gates and shut down the factory. We had a bunch of people rushing the gates. We had people trying to climb fences. We had people trying to get on the property in any way they could. And there was mayhem. We had a number of injuries of people tripping and falling and stepping on each other and getting themselves injured. And the police, of course, were called out to handle the crowds that were approaching the Giga Berlin on multiple fronts. And it was melee for some time, which, again, this is so bizarre that you've got an electric car company that's contributing to your economy. It's not a polluting company. It is a company that's working within the rules that are laid out in front of it for water consumption, for emissions, for certainly the number of people that are employed there. It's ridiculous that Giga Berlin has been under attack and increasing attack over these past months. Tesla certainly, I wonder how surprised they actually were. They were in some ways ready for it because they were able to contact security and the police immediately when they saw crowds gathering. And they were able to prevent the vast majority of these people from getting on Tesla grounds. Mm-hmm. But it was kind of a scary situation. Some of the videos are out there on X where you can see people running around and throwing things. And it's weird as to what's going on in Germany.
So I did this one on Sunday, and I took more issue with the fact that this was the place I found. It was a major news organization, and they just totally accepted these people's messaging that they were protesters. There are several large issues at the moment that they're, depending on which group you talk to, that they're concerned about. There's the ones that are concerned about the water, which when we say the water, we're talking about how much Tesla is using their sewage plant, their sewage connection from the kitchen and the restrooms that the employees use. Like literally, they had bomb threats and an arson over something they should have taken up with the wastewater treatment plant and the local council if they wanted Tesla to pre-treat any more of that waste. Another one is you've got folks complaining about the cardboard forest. I think that is what the folks that were doing this rush were complaining about, the cardboard forest. And then the other major one too, you've got the fact that they make cars and they don't want any cars out there whatsoever, even if they're electric. And then the last one is the people complaining about that Tesla's going to be using trains at the plant. So they didn't want the trucks, so Tesla said, "Okay, we got trains, and we don't want the trains. We're gonna be violent."
Airships, blimps are the next one.
Electric blimps.
Jeez. So a couple times on this show, I've talked about the podcast Drilled, and Amy Westervelt. I'd still recommend it highly. On there, she has talked about how a lot of the fossil fuel companies in the past have been attacked by these types of groups. And so they've figured out that, okay, there are young people and they're angry and they're upset about things, and we're going to be their targets unless we can find a way to divert them towards other things. And so they infiltrate these groups, they circulate propaganda, they have all the things that we just mentioned, like, okay, yes, Tesla did cut down trees to expand and to build. And if you take that out of context and just end it there, that sounds horrible. But
hardwood trees.
Yeah, the context there is that these were trees planted for a cardboard forest, and they're replacing them with hardwood trees at double or triple the rate in other places. So they're taking steps to compensate it for it. And yes, they're using water. And the context is, if you look at how much water they use per vehicle, it's about twice as good as the industry average. And but if you take it out of context, you circulate propaganda, you get them all spun up, and then you get them to attack someone like Tesla. And some of them are actually just involved in directing this group the wrong way, and some of them are just followers who have been told these horrible things are being done by Tesla without the context, and so they are legitimately angry and upset. And it's really weird how if you have a group of people who are disenfranchised by one way or another, socially or whatever, if you can make them think somebody is the enemy, somebody is the reason that they're not getting what they deserve in life, that they will go after them regardless of the facts behind it. And once you're in that state of anger, you don't have the mental capacity to actually stop and think rationally. You just get angry. So I think that's behind so many of our recent events.
All over the world.
Yeah. There's a lot of upset people, and just don't, if you're in that state, don't turn off your brain, figure out who the right place to be angry is. And then also look at how can you be effective at resolving it, because, just posting on social media or protesting the wrong place, these are not effective. You have to actually find a way to be effective.
Yeah, you'll see this if you want to look a little closer to home to see an example of this. Look at all the people who don't care about EVs, but all of a sudden care about all of the plight of the cobalt miners all around the world. Without the context that EVs, like a lot of the new ones, don't even use any cobalt, and all the ones that do use it are constantly reducing how much they use, while the largest consumer of cobalt is desulfurization of fossil fuels.
Right, desulfurization, and then they're complaining about it on their iPhones, which guess what the battery in there has, right? So the hypocrisy of it. Yeah, I mean, when I first got my EV, there was all this stuff about, oh, you're using all this electricity. Okay, well, you have a hot tub and 4 refrigerators, and you weren't upset about the electricity use of those items. And now because I'm using it for transportation, somehow you think that's worse than what you're doing with it. Oh, and by the way, I have solar panels and you don't, so shut up.
Now you're burning the gas, because the gas also uses the exact amount of electricity as you use to propel your car, plus all the stuff that happens when you burn the gas.
Exactly.
So you just have the explosions part.
Right.
As far as the
yes.
But you also
refineries where they exist are usually one of the largest consumers of electricity.
Yeah. Well, that's certainly unfortunate. But as we've seen with Germany, this has been escalating. And I think, unfortunately, that the state of Germany and some of these different disenfranchised people, as Patrick put it, I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. I think that this is something that Tesla is going to have to be aware of and plan for the future. I don't think any amount of goodwill is going to deter some of these groups from protesting or vandalizing, I would put it, any way that they can. And unfortunately, Tesla's going to have to be a little bit of a police state when it comes to their property and their location to not allow these disruptors to get onto company site and disrupt operations or the people that work there.
And then on Sunday, I concluded with it's a lot more effective to write your. Sorry, it's a lot more effective to consult with your political representatives. You need to go ahead and write them letters, make phone calls, show up at their office politely. Yeah, turn off the camera. Make sure they that they're hearing you, because if they don't hear from you, they're only going to hear from the people with the money, and those people with the money are the ones that are hurting you. So
yeah,
it doesn't really matter how you call yourself politically. If they don't hear from you, they're going to listen to the people they do hear from. So if you want them to represent you, make sure they understand what you want.
Exactly. Well, with that, guys, I think we're going to wrap up a little bit early. We want to thank, of course, everyone that's joined us in the chat room and has conversed with us this evening. Certainly, if you haven't already, please give us a thumbs up on the video. That helps us out immensely. Press it subscribe if you haven't subscribed to this point. I don't know what you're waiting for. It's not going to get any cheaper because it's absolutely free. So please do that. That would help us out. And with that, Casey, any shout-outs from you this evening?
Yeah, so last week, Brian gave us a pretty cool idea, and you can go check it out on the webpage. I've got these sticker packs. You can tat up my ride, and that's what I do is help us get components to finish the transition with the cargo trailer to EV RV faster. And even more good news is right before we started the show, I got a text from the Postal Service that they found my registration and pre-title work. So now they're going to process that hopefully tomorrow, and then mail me a license plate and registration so we can actually move it around, which means that it'll be able to do its
bonus. And Casey, let the folks know what that web address is.
Oh, yes. So that's at evnomads.com. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
HV.
HVnomads.com.
High voltage.
HV for high voltage.
Voltage, yes. If you spell it out, that works too, but it's easier just to write hvnomads.com and take a look around. I've got a little bit of a backstory we're going on there, and then we'll start up making videos on YouTube. But if you maybe one week you missed the video, you can just read the blog post. And then that YouTube channel is youtube.com @Casey Green, And you can catch us there Sunday at 1:10 Eastern, where we talk about the general world of green living and EVs. And this week was Tesla heavy for some reason, and so I got a little bit of a preview of the show this time. Followed up by this show on Friday. You're going to catch us at same time, same place, but it's going to be the Tesla Life Express, where it's kind of pre-recorded. And then after my show on Monday, same thing, right here at the Tesla Life Express again. And then we catch you again right here, same time, same place next week.
Perfect. Patrick, what do you got for us?
Sure. As always, I'm with the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. You can find us at oeva.org. And at our last event, I actually went and saw Brian. Brian and I met. He drove down from Longview, Washington. And we listened to the, we met at the new display center sales room for Tesla in Tigard. They had a Cybertruck on display that we could sit in this time, because the first time I went and saw it, they had it roped off and they wouldn't let you touch it. So this time I got to open and close the vault, the tonneau cover, and sit in it. And that was a pretty cool event. Although one of the guys that works at Tesla was saying that depending on where the panel was on the truck, it had a different amount of copper in it. And Brian and I just looked at each other and rolled our eyes like, okay, yeah, these guys, so don't trust everything you hear from folks that work at Tesla, because they end up getting their information the same way that we do, off of the internet. And there are some sites on the internet, some are more reliable, some are
Yeah, I remember I was messaging Brian. I said, "Oh yeah, next time I'm in town, I'll bring my iPad and I'll try to get Patrick on it." And he said, "Man, he beat me to it."
Yep. So that was cool. And then so that was my OEVA plug. And also I blog occasionally at carswithcords.net, where I write about my future free from fossil fuels.
Got it in.
Thanks everybody. Yeah.
Very good. So we want to thank everyone for being with us tonight. Special thanks to Lee Moon, who joined us in the chat room. Thanks for the music, Lee. We use it every week and really appreciate it.
Congratulations on that new Model Y.
That's right.
Uh-huh.
And Derek's daughter. Congratulations. Maybe she'll start watching the show now too, Derek. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
With that, we will roll the end credits and talk to you next time on the Tesla Life.
If anybody else takes advantage of that deal, message us. We'd like to know.
Stay positive, test negative.